Welcome to a moment of meditation. I am Patricia Lee, the assistant chaplain here at the village. We are well into the season of Advent, which begins 4 Sundays before Christmas. Many people tend to think of Advent as a season of waiting to celebrate Christmas. But we who are living over 2,000 years after the birth of Christ, with the entire Bible available to us, can look back and realize that God's people had in fact waited for thousands of years for the coming of the Messiah, the Savior promised by God. Last time we meditated on the meaning of the word hope in Hebrew, the language of the Old Testament. We learned that hope actually means waiting, like Noah had to wait for the flood to recede before the ark could land and they could get out. But they waited in hope, knowing that the time would come. We also learned that hope also refers to the tension of anticipation during the time of waiting. It is like children waiting with great excitement for Christmas morning so that they can open their presents. But the most important question is, what is Advent about? What is the object of our hoping and waiting? We're going to continue our meditation on this theme of waiting in hope. Let's begin by reciting from Psalm 62 of David. We will read from verses 5 to 8. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my salvation and my glory, my mighty rock, my refuge in God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Here David first talks to his own soul, telling him to wait in silence for God alone. When you wait, do you wait in silence? Somehow my mind leads me to a scene I saw on television last year when people were fleeing from a fast-developing wildfire in their neighborhood, and the roads were congested with so many cars all wanting to get away. But it was a huge traffic jam, and there was nothing they could do but wait for the cars in front to move forward. If I were there, would I be able to wait in silence when I could smell the smoke and see the flames approaching? But David said, his hope is from God. He shall not be shaken, because God alone is his rock and his salvation and his fortress. God is sheltering and protecting David. He will be saved, and God is doing the same for us. That knowledge of who God is and what he can do needs to be in place in order for us to have that confidence and assurance to wait in silence for him. When we can wait in hope, then we can call out to the people around and say, trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts before him. What a comfort to know that we can pour out our hearts before God. He will listen to us. He will help us. He will comfort us. God is a refuge for us. I would say that since the pandemic began in March, our community had been hit hard during this recent surge. While some people show no symptoms or very mild sickness after contracting the virus, others suffered mightily, and some even lost their lives. For them and for their loved ones, there is a lot of waiting and hoping involved. My prayer is that, like David, we can all say, my hope is from God, and we can trust in him and wait for him alone. The prophet Isaiah wrote quite a bit about the coming of the Messiah 8 centuries before Christ. Isaiah chapter 40 is often recited during the Advent season about God sending comfort to his people. Toward the end of that chapter, we find the familiar passage of the benefit of waiting for the Lord. Please read with me from verses 28 to 31 if you like. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. Even youth shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Often God reminds us who he is and what he has done before he instructs us what we need to do. Here we are reminded that the Lord is the everlasting God, El Olam in Hebrew, you might remember. And he is the almighty creator God, El Shaddai. He is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-compassion. In verse 31 we read, "But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." I need to point out that this benefit is not limited to our physical strength, even our present corruptible physical life. It could mean he will renew our strength while we are now living, but it includes our eternal hope for an everlasting life, vibrant and full of glory. The Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Romans, chapter 12, verse 12, "Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer." Would you repeat with me and commit that to memory? Rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. That is how we live and wait in whatever circumstances, even during hard times, in trial and tribulation. So Christ has come and died and risen from death. He has accomplished salvation for all who believed in him. So why are we still waiting? Well, we are waiting for his second coming. I will read for you from 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 10 to 13. "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. Since all these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies will melt as they burn? But according to his promise, we are waiting for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells." Peter has described for us an awesome scene when Jesus returns in the future. We do not know when that will happen, just like we have no idea when a thief may come to your home. But Peter told us that this is how we need to live, in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God. In fact, until he comes, we are waiting for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. This is the meaning of Advent for us today. We read something similar in the Epistle of James, chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. "Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and the late rains. You also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Have you noticed the one word that is repeated 3 times here? Yes, patient. Be patient while we wait. Like the farmer, wait with expectation and hope for the harvest. Meanwhile, establish your hearts. Let your hearts be constant in faith and steadfast in holiness. Be firm and unwavering. Know that the coming of the Lord will happen just as God has promised. Let us sing a song of waiting in hope. It is Psalm 42, which is number 401 in our hymnal. Dan Stokes shall lead us.
As the heart longs for flowing streams, so longs my soul for you, O God. My soul does thirst for the living God. When shall I come to see your face? My tears have fed me day and night, while men have said, where is your God? But I recall, as always dry, the days of praise within your house. Why do I mourn and toil within, when it is mine to hope in God? I shall again sing praise to Him. He is my help. He is my God.
Receive the benediction for this Advent season from Isaiah chapter 30, verse 18. Therefore the Lord waits to be gracious to you, and therefore He exalts Himself to show mercy to you. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for Him. Thanks be to God.